right, here we go, Jenna. At number 5, we're going to Dallas for Dak Prescott. All right? This is a huge game. I know a lot of people take it for granted. Oh, Dallas going to win the NFC East. If they lose this game to Washington on Sunday, all right, they are a game ahead of the Washington football team. That's it. And they still have to play Washington in a few more weeks. So they've got to win this game. And here's the thing. Where's the run game going to come from? We know Ezekiel Elliott is battling a pesky knee injury. So what's he going to be like? And on top of that, Washington is 3rd in the NFL against the run. So Dak is going to have to carry them with his arm. And this is the question that's always dogged him. Can he do it? So Dak Prescott, you're under duress. At number 4, we stay in the NFC. Matthew Stafford. Oh, I know he looked great last week against Jacksonville. Of course he did. That's what he does. He was 8-68 when he came to LA against teams with winning records. And this year he's 2-3 with 3 straight losses against teams with winning records. He eats up the chumps. All right, and Nick, I'm sorry. I know you love Trevor Lawrence. Jacksonville is a bunch of chumps this year. All right, what is he going to do against a good team? They play Arizona. He already lost to them once this season. It's a big division game. But he has got to prove to onlookers and maybe people in that locker room and organization that he can have good games, great games, against the elite teams and lead them to victory. Otherwise, why'd you give up Jared Goff, who, while not as good, led you to a Super Bowl? Oh, and 2 first-round picks with Jared Goff for Matthew Stafford. If he can't beat the good teams, he's under duress. At number 3, Lamar Jackson. Lamar was on last week. And Jenna, it didn't motivate him. He went out there and had 7 sacks, and 3 or 4 of them were his fault for holding the ball too long. And Lamar's been struggling. You know, last 5 games, 7 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. 2 weeks ago when they beat Cleveland 16-10, he had 4 interceptions. Lamar is not playing well, and there's a narrative now that if you pressure him, whether it's with the blitz or otherwise, and go cover 0, you can neutralize Lamar Jackson. Here's the other thing. They need to win this game. They're 8-4 right now. It's looking good. Yep, but their schedule is rugged, right? They got Green Bay, Cincinnati, the Rams, and Pittsburgh after this. So Cleveland might be their lightest game remaining. They need to get a W. Lamar needs to be great. Number 2, Josh Allen. And Nick, you've been on this all year, really his whole career. He's the roller coaster. And last week he was down. All right, 50% of his passes completed. I get it. The weather was inclement. All right, and he was facing Bill Belichick. But he didn't play well. Only 10 points he managed. He was twice in the red zone in the last 9 minutes. Couldn't produce any points. So Josh Allen, look, they've got 7 wins. Only 1 of them against a winning team. Okay? And just like Baltimore, they're 7-5, Nick. Right now, they are 7th. Obviously, that's the last playoff spot in the AFC. If they lose to Tampa Bay, which is not only possible but probable, they will fall out of the playoff race, at least temporarily, or, you know, the playoff spots. Yep. And this is a team that some thought would reach the Super Bowl. At number 1, he's become a mainstay. I know he was off last week because they had a bye. But Baker Mayfield, he's been on this list so much that the Bud list could actually stand for Baker under duress. All right? And this is not a gimmick. He is the guy most under duress. I know Wiles and Nick want to give him a pass. Oh, Baker, don't play anymore. You're dinged up. You got a couple cuts and a couple scrapes. He should have gotten a little bit more healthy over the bye week. All right, and now you've got Baltimore. They just beat you a couple weeks ago. They're 6-6. Nick and I picked this team to reach the AFC Championship. A few people actually picked them to reach the Super Bowl. And now they're out of the playoffs. But if they win this game, they're right back in the thick of things. So Wiles, Baker Mayfield, no surprise, most under duress this week.
All right, so I'm going to add somebody to this list who oddly hasn't gotten a lot of criticism. It's Trevor Lawrence. Like, oh, Wilds, he's just a rookie. Leave Trevor Lawrence alone. He's got to learn. He's on the Peyton Manning path. He's on the Troy Aikman path. Like, okay, maybe. But, Nick, you said something very interesting when we were talking about the draft. You said there's 5 quarterbacks in this draft. What are the chances that none of them are a disappointment? That we go 5 for 5? I said, you know what? That's interesting. And I think the way to look at it is like a game of musical chairs. It's like disappointment musical chairs, Broussard. And the disappointment music's going on. And everybody's walking around. And guess what? Music stops. If you're a disappointment, sit down. You know who's left standing? Mac Jones. Mac Jones like, I'm out of the game, guys. Have fun. It's going to go around again. Who's the next person off? Oh, probably Justin Fields, right? Justin Fields is showing some flashes. Probably is not going to be a disappointment. So now you're left with Trey Lance, Zach Wilson, who's been hurt and has got the sort of the Jets curse, and Trevor Lawrence, who is supposed to be the no-brainer, guaranteed, can't-miss number 1 guy. All I'm saying is, show me something. Show me something. You won a game in London, pretty good, but a little London game kind of funky. You won the game against the Bills at home where neither team scored 10 points. The last 5 games, you've thrown 1 touchdown. You haven't thrown any interceptions, but 1 touchdown. You're going into Tennessee coming off a bye. Not easy, don't get me wrong. But they are 26th in passing. And for all the dinking and dunking that Mac Jones does, Mac Jones did throw for 310 yards and 2 touchdowns. So I'm not calling him a bust. I'm not saying anything like that. But we were very hard on Tua last year in a smaller sample size for a team that wasn't great. In the same year, Joe Burrow came out right away from a Bengals team that stunk, and he got a few wins, and everyone's like, you know what, Joe Burrow, the real deal. We haven't been able to say that yet about Trevor Lawrence. I'd like to see something. That's why I'm putting him on the bud list.
Great points, Wilds. You really did hit some great points. And Nick, he rips Mac Jones for dinking and dunking. His last 5-6 games, Trevor Lawrence has averaged about 5 yards per attempt. And in 4 of those 5 games, he hasn't thrown for 165 yards. So he's struggling. He's actually been regressing, actually. Now, I'm not predicting bust either, but it would be nice for him to go out and show us something over these last few weeks. But here's the thing, and why he didn't make this list, Wilds. He has kind of a buffer. His coach gets more criticism, Urban Meyer, than he does, right? And so nobody's really expecting anything from Trevor Lawrence. And they're looking more because his coach is such a controversial figure. People are looking more at Urban Meyer than they're looking at Trevor Lawrence. So for those reasons, I don't think there's pressure on him. They play Tennessee. Nobody expects him to win that game. But you are right about his lack of production.
All right, so you guys can, sell your Trevor Lawrence stock. I will scoop it up. I'm a holder when it comes to Trevor Lawrence. You guys have paper hands. That's fine. I will scoop it up like I did Wilds Bitcoin when he panicked 18 months ago. Thanks for that, Wilds. I'm going to quickly mention 3 guys, all 3 quarterbacks, all coming off a bye. All coming off a loss, all in the final year of their contract. Carr, Cousins, Jimmy G. Speaking of musical chairs, where are any of these guys playing quarterback next year? I think it's in question for all of them. Cousins, his numbers this year have been unbelievable, but they have had back-to-back devastating losses, and he has the 3rd highest cap hit in football next year. He's $45 million. Jimmy G, obviously the team doesn't want him anymore, as evidenced by what they did to get Trey Lance. And Derek Carr, and we'll talk to Honey Badger about this, Derek Carr, 3rd straight year, the Raiders get off to a good start. 3rd straight year, they absolutely collapse. I think all 3 of those guys could be playing for different teams next season. So to me, Broussard, they're all under duress right now.
Well, Jimmy G, here's the thing. We know he's out of there, right? So I don't know how much pressure. I actually think he's kind of playing free. We know they've gotten healthy over the last few weeks. Deebo Samuel's been out. If he's out again this week, that's an excuse for Jimmy G. But he's playing freely because I think he knows this is it. Trey Lance is the quarterback next year. So he's been, they've been winning a few games despite their loss last week. Derek Carr, I feel like he's got built-in excuses, Nick. And I know they rebounded a bit a couple weeks ago, but with what happened to John Gruden and then the tragedy with Henry Ruggs, and now Darren Waller, is he going to play this week? He's been out. These are built-in excuses for him, and they play Kansas City. So I know you and nobody else is really expecting him to win that game, So I think those are some built-in excuses for him that if they lose, hey, it's understandable. And then Kirk Cousins, we just know what Kirk Cousins is. Like, that's the thing. And, in fact, it goes for all three of these guys, Nick. We know what they are. They're good quarterbacks. They're not elite quarterbacks. All of them will be starting somewhere next year, but maybe not where they're at this year. You're right about that.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.